Um, Although on the agenda, we are to move into executive session right away, we do have a visitor here today who may want to address the commission.
Yes. Hi, I'm Representative Keiko Orrall, and I am concerned about the direction of the Lottery Commission with regards to the moving of the location in Braintree. I'm hoping that all the stakeholders will be included before any final decisions are made with that issue, and so that's the reason for my attendance today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
May I inquire, Representative? Because we'd obviously like to, I mean, I certainly as the comptroller would like to hear more about how we can engage the stakeholders, or specifically what it is that we've not done.
Well, I guess my concern is that I haven't seen the cost analysis with regards to the decision that was made in March and the decision that was made last month to move the location formally from Braintree was as a direct result of that first decision in March.
So, I mean, are you asking for information, or?
I'm asking for a cost analysis regarding this decision and the impact to the local aid that will affect every community.
Okay. I mean, again, I can only speak for myself as comptroller, and and because I oversee the audit of $60 billion a year annually, I'm certainly, I certainly am with you on the impact aspect of that and the impact analysis. I think that one of the things that we at least should examine are some of the concerns that I think have been raised relative to the location of the headquarters. And what I mean by that is I know that there's been some discussion relative to the Commission's decision to expand the locus search of the lottery headquarters and the other facilities. And I think that that's again an analysis that we take very seriously. But we've done so in order to both support the lottery employees and the 351 cities and towns. I just want to speak for myself and say that that effort is undertaken to expand, not to contract or to limit from a location standpoint where we must be.
But as far as the decision that was made in March, one of those RFPs was written in a way that the Braintree facility wouldn't be as determined as favorably because of its location to public transit. And so it's confusing to me as to why the Commission decided to separate it into three parts as opposed to going out for one RFP, and why they wouldn't make it so that at least the Braintree facility could be included in its entirety.
Again, I think I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that the headquarters has been there since 1996, or is it 1970, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, so since 1970, but we obviously.
76,
Is that right?
It's just a little bit over 20 years.
Okay. So, but the point is that I believe that as I recall, and again, my memory may be imperfect, but my recollection is that we went out to bid pursuant to the requirements of the Department of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance, which is, of course, the overarching and required standards which the Lottery Commission must use.
Absolutely, and you and I both know that we can be working on an RFP in such a way that the Braintree facility could have been included, putting the parameters together for the RFP.
But I think that, well, again, the fact of the matter is that this commission is designed in a particular way. It's designed to create a broad oversight and a broad skill set and analytical skill set. And and the fact of the matter is that as a board or as a commission, it's enormously important for us to remain independent in terms of our oversight, and to make sure that we're doing an analysis that is both sanctioned under state law, both finance law and procurement law, and again, based upon my own experience and my own oversight of the finances of Massachusetts, that's exactly what's happened. Now, I don't disagree that some cost analysis may well be an appropriate aspect of this, and that
has that been done?
Well, certainly. I mean, the whole concept behind the procurement I think one of the issues, and again, Representative, I think it's enormously important that the public understand exactly what our oversight role is with regard to those headquarters. Our obligation, I've actually been through a number of different leasing matters over the course of my history, both in district attorney's offices, in the comptroller's office, and I've also certainly assisted here and in other commissions and boards that I've been a member of. And the most important thing that we can do is make sure that we're serving all of the constituencies of Massachusetts, not just a singular constituency. Now, as far as my recollection is, the fact is that the building that the lottery is located in, certainly within the confines of Braintree, but that's not the only town that's available, a city or town that's available to the people of Massachusetts and should be considered. Now, I understand that perhaps a simple analysis might say, well, if you don't have to move, then you might save money. But I do think it's important to recognize that the board makes these decisions based upon its our financial obligations to both the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and to the lottery employees. So, if a building was, and I've been through this before too in different organizations, but if a building was outfitted 20 plus years ago for use, I can tell you that the technology needs have certainly changed dramatically in that period of time. The warehousing needs have changed over that period of time.
So again, we get back to the initial decision that was made in March to take the second floor and move it to Dorchester, leaving the second floor empty in Braintree, to which the management in Braintree, the landlord, needed to raise the rent to cover that cost. That decision was made last month, as far as where you were going to totally abandon Braintree. At that meeting, it wasn't clear where are you going to go. And where are you going to go when the lease expires in January of 2019? That's 3 months.
Well,
and when is the public going to be included, as far as the city council, the mayor, any of the union employees? When are they going to be included as far as understanding where the next step is for the agency? I understand that maybe you would want to look into other areas, but it's not clear what the process was as far as the plan for getting to this place where we find ourselves today.
Certainly, the public process of issuing the request for proposals was done after an analysis. A very significant analytical process was engaged in, both with the lottery leadership and with the Department of Capital Asset Management. As you know, that falls under the executive. It's an executive department, and in that, again, based upon my experience, we have followed those rules and requirements to a T. Now, I understand that some may not like the concept that portions of the lottery either have moved or are slated to move. But again, the decision-making process is one that has to be in the interest of all. Now, clearly, the employees it's enormously important to me as a commissioner that the employees are not only included in a discussion, but it can't be dispositive. And that's exactly why collective bargaining allows for impact bargaining. It allows for that, the ability of this organization and the lottery to work with its employees to accommodate when necessary. But from an operational standpoint, operational need is also an important balance. And
so where will the lottery be moving?
That's a great question. I think we're going to be going into an examination of that today. Now, the fact is that some of that I think is settled, Mr. Sweeney, and some of it is not. Correct?
That is correct, essentially. I think as we've discussed in the past, looking at a new unique option for the data center that will actually be a savings to the Commonwealth taxpayers of less than 351 cities and towns. We're working, as you mentioned, with the Commonwealth's executive office through DCAM to look for the other components of the space, which is essentially a South Shore Regional Office, I think most people would be able to guess would be located in the South Shore, the main South Shore Regional Office, and we'll also go out to bid for distribution, warehouse, and functionalities that are also related to supporting South Shore Regional Office and other operations of the lot.
Thank you. And I also think that it's important to recognize that the decision, in both the decisions in March and then later decisions as it relates to negotiations with the current landlord, were let me characterize it as this. There was a lack of communication by the existing landlord during this entire process. And that's certainly an issue that the Commonwealth and the people of Massachusetts should be aware of. Now, I get that that it may be concerning to some, but the fact of the matter is that those communications, we have operated in very strong and good faith relative to this, and I for one would suggest that that's the case, and I would hope that my fellow commissioners would agree with that. But I can't control, and we can't control, whether or not somebody else is operating in good faith with us.
So the executive director just stated that the locations, some of those have been determined, and again, you haven't met as a commission, and I'm curious as to where those locations are because, again, stakeholders haven't been included. 3 months is ticking, January is coming, and it's not clear to the employees or to anyone else where you're going or why you're leaving, or how much it's going to cost as far as the move. How are you going to deal with the sensitive information technology that needs to be the brain of the lottery? How are those types of things going to be handled as far as the move?
Well, that's exactly why we engaged in this process well over a year ago. We began this analysis well over a year ago, and we made a selection. We made selections based upon the recommendations and followed the rules relative to DCAM's analysis, which is the requirement of every state agency, all 152 state agencies and departments, which is exactly what we're required to do and what we did do. Now, we didn't change any of those. In other words, we operated within the confines of, or the construct
Absolutely.
Of that.
Yes.
And the fact of the matter is that we made a selection. That selection, we then engaged in discussions with all of the organizations that we were involved in negotiations. There was one agency, or one organization specifically that was lacking in their communications with us. It just so happens that that's the same organization that you're talking about relative to the headquarters in Braintree.
Well, again, when the decision was made in March, it impacted what would be happening at the current, and at that time it was indicated that they were thinking that the Braintree location would stay intact as far as the first floor, and so it's not clear why that wasn't a foresight or a forethought as far as what would happen with the vacated.
The forethought was communication that was happening.
So you're blaming the management company for this decision.
Just to be clear, the management company's bid on what I would refer to as RFP2 and RFP3, since there's a public record being created, the bid that they submitted were on those individual pieces, namely warehouse distribution data center and what we're referring to as the South Shore Regional Office. The eventual determination of the best bidder for headquarters should have had no impact on their bid. They submitted independent bids on those other two components. So the decision in March should have had zero impact on any good faith bidder who was required to honor their bid. For reasons which they have conveyed and which we've shared with the public, the landlord indicated that they were unable to continue at the price that they had originally submitted, and that working in cooperation with the Commonwealth, Executive Office of DCAM, a decision was made. They notified us of a very significant increase, over 55%, in July of this year.
From their original proposal.
Their original, which is not...
About a year later.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
just not cost.
And when we're referring to March, I want to make sure everybody knows we're referring to 2017, not 18. So they bid on 3 pizzas. They were awarded 2, and they did not notify us for at least
Until July of this year.
8 months after they were awarded the bids that they could not do it. So this is not news. They were awarded 2, and Dorchester was awarded 1.
And it's not predicated
Period.
on the commission's decision that was reached in March. They're 2 independent issues.
Right.
And I would maintain that that one RFP was written in a way that Braintree, that they would not have bid on that because they were outside of the parameters. And so that's where,
Are you suggesting that just one location, and that one location was discounted as a result of, in other words, where the lottery currently is?
I'm saying that the
was
RFP
discounted?
was written in a way that the current facility would not be considered as favorably or could possibly bid on all 3 contracts because of their location and proximity to commuter rail.
But our obligation isn't to show favor to one
No,
location.
absolutely.
Well, that's exactly.
I'm just saying that the current location, I'm not sure why the one RFP was written in such a way that it had to be, that it was written with regards to the commuter rail. Why was it written so that it was just outside of the area that Braintree could have applied for that administrative office RFP?
I think particularly over the last 10 years, I'm sure the history is actually longer. I think in many different ways and formats, the Commonwealth as an entirety has exhibited expressed desire to try to move things closer to public transportation and have public transportation be accessible for people for a wide variety of reasons, including environmental impact. And so certainly that was one of the reasons that was presented to the Commission some time ago as part of the process. And again, neither this Commission, I would just like to remind people, nor the lottery officers can simply write whatever it wants in a request for property. That process is overseen by DCAM. The example I've used throughout this process is, if we were to have gone to DCAM, for example, and said, we'd like 500,000 square feet, DCAM would have said, well, that's nice. We want a lot of things in life, but you have no justification for 500,000 square feet. So there is a process that has to be followed. There is a review by an executive office that, in essence, interacts with each state agency so that proper determinations can be made as to what goes out to bid and what doesn't go out to bid. And certainly all aspects of any of the requirements for these 3 different RFPs met DCAM's muster. I'd just like to remind people, too, we're going through the same process momentarily in Springfield. We're going to be going through the same process in Woburn. And relatively speaking, for government, in a blink of an eye, we're going to go through this process for Worcester. When you go through a public procurement process, depending on what you're trying to procure and the timing that you try to procure it, sometimes things come in at higher prices than a lease you're exiting, whether that's for copier machines or for property. This situation could have and should have likely been addressed in the past. And as I've said before, I would just like to personally thank the Commission for having the courage to tackle issues, to modernize the lottery, and to follow Mass General laws that sometimes hasn't always been done in other state agencies across the board. And quite frankly, there's a lot going on in this state. I'll make this really brief. From an opioid crisis to a situation that just impacted 3 cities and towns in Lawrence, Andover, North Andover, which I have some familiarity with. I'm not going to get into the other state agencies that have well-documented issues, failure or unfailure. There's a lot of places in this Commonwealth that need intelligent, passionate people to focus some time and energy. The Massachusetts State Lottery, with all due respect, is not one of them. We're the best run lottery in the country. And we have the best men and women who make it so every single day and have for at least the entire time that I've been there, which is what I'll speak to. So I just think people should tread lightly about any type of mismanagement or irregularity. If someone has those questions, the place to be knocking on is a different state executive.
Thank you, and I would just like to say that as it relates to the lottery employees and their leadership, we've been I've had the great good fortune of working with them for the past 3 years as comptroller, and for 2 or 3 years prior to that as a deputy comptroller. And I will say this about that: I'm very proud of the work that this commission does. I'm very proud of my fellow appointees. Although I'm a member of this board, I'm also appointed by the administration as comptroller. But I do believe that the insights that we've had as a result of some of the professional experiences, both of one of the commissioners who's not here today, but also Commissioner Liddy, who is here today, who happens to be a professional within this particular area, and her insights and her negotiating capabilities have been a huge assistance to this board, and is well served by that. And not to mention the Secretary of Public Safety, Secretary Bennett, who's been well represented and is well represented here today. We all share that same commitment to maintaining the lottery success as the most successful lottery in the country. But it's not at the expense of its employees, and it's not at the expense of a single location. So, and I don't know if Commissioner Liddy, if you want to.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of information that came in, and a lot of it was kind of dropped on us to have to change that quickly. But the fact of the matter is that you have leases expiring in a market that is much different than when you wrote them the first time. And that's going to come with increased cost, and it's going to come with the need to modernize spaces. And it came with us really taking good thought as to how we attract lottery employees in the future, how we make the life of lottery employees, current lottery employees, better. It was all in good faith. We're all here with a mission. I'm very proud to be here, mission-based. I'm constantly thinking, how do we maximize the dollars back to the cities and towns? It's their only source of unrestricted aid, and we all really go into every decision with that in the back of our minds. But, and again, it is being addressed. Some of it can't be disclosed publicly because it compromises us from a negotiating standpoint. And yeah, we are in a position that we didn't plan on being in a year ago, but there is continued good faith, and we will work through these issues. But there's certain things that we can't disclose until it's the right time to disclose them, because this is a fragile operation that we have to we have to be very delicate about moving forward, because it is a big operations center.
So in 3 months, the lottery will be without a home unless you decide today where that will be. It's not clear to us what the cost will be to the taxpayers. It's not clear to us what the reasoning was for the move. It's still not clear to me. I do appreciate the time, Madam Chair, that you've given me to have this discussion, but I still would ask that you include the stakeholders, including the municipalities that you're discussing where you're going to potentially move. So that would be my request. Not only I'm asking that you think about the impact that the moving costs will have on local aid.
And I appreciate that, Representative Orrall. And I certainly appreciate the opportunity to address your concerns. I also think it's important to recognize that we are managing this lottery under sometimes what I think can be described as very challenging circumstances relative to the limitations on appropriation as it relates to certain aspects of the lottery's operations, including marketing, including some of the other lifeblood activities of any business organization. So to the extent that we can share that with you as a representative, that would be very helpful. I hope it's helpful as well to understand that our requests seem to have not received necessarily the attention that we had hoped from the legislature and others relative to the importance of a strong and successful continued lottery. But with all due respect, I don't believe it's going to be, if the lottery it does suffer, it won't be as a result of this open and public and legally mandated process. It will be because the lottery's hands are tied with regard to certain aspects of what we're required to do on a daily basis. And I think that it would be terrific if the legislature could hear us out on those issues maybe a little bit more furtively in the future.
That's great. And to that end, I've requested a post-audit hearing from both the Senate and House committees to have a discussion with the legislature so that we can all clearly understand where the Lottery Commission has gone with the first decision and the subsequent decisions. So I appreciate that.
Can we include in that the discussion of the marketing appropriations so that we can continue to develop both online gambling and online purchasing and the ability to be able to foster the future business aspects of this organization?
Sure. So that's up to the House chair and Senate chair as to how the proceeding would go. But I think that would be a great opportunity for the Lottery Commission to clarify some of these issues.
Well, we welcome your support in that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Tom, I think you wanted to say something.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name's Madam Treasurer. My name's Tom McKeever. I'm a representative of SEIU. I was just wondering, Director Sweeney, if you would be able to confirm if Jumbo Management extended the lease until April of 2019 for our members that we really didn't have a strategy for on the bottom floor.
Not to be a stickler for procedure, but usually these types of setting questions are asked of the group as opposed to an individual. Lease extension with Jumbo Capital is obviously an issue of interest for many people that are in the room and not in the room today. And we'll follow the appropriate steps with DCAM, and I've already begun to follow those steps to engage the current landlord in any type of lease extension, should that be possible to do. So as the letter to Jumbo from DCAM originally indicated, we welcome those discussions, and those discussions will be ongoing.
So we haven't reached a decision or a conclusion on whether April is the month that 150 members on the downstairs need to find a new location?
If your question is, have we reached a lease extension in the period of 3 weeks with Jumbo, the answer is no.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Tom? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so,
Should do the executive director's report. That's just my suggestion.
and hold on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
all right. Well, we'll hold off on the executive session, and we will do the executive director's report with the sales update and marketing update.